Good morning and happy Columbus Day to y'all. I'm going to split this podcast up into two. The first one's going to be on the Byzantines, and then the second one is going to be on medieval Europe and what's going on over there. So let's get started with the Byzantines. Here is a timeline, courtesy of Freemanpedia, that covers some of the main things that you need to know for the Byzantine Empire, and I will reference some of the important dates that you need to know and some important things. So the Byzantine Empire starts in 330, officially when Constantine founds the city of Constantinople. Remember, the Byzantine Empire was the eastern half of the Roman Empire when it was split, and it survived the collapse of Rome in 476. This is like one of the dates that you need to know. Important people, Justinian, and I'll talk more about him later. The Hagia Sophia, another important thing you need to know. 1054 was the Great Schism. You need to know that. 1095 was the start of the Crusades. Important, and we'll cover that. And 1453, this is one of the most important dates that you need to know. This is when Constantinople falls to the Ottomans, and it starts one of the big moments and turning points in history. So 476 over here and 1453 are very, very important dates that you need to make sure that you know. So officially, the Byzantine Empire starts in 330 when Constantine renames Byzantium Constantinople after himself. The reason the Byzantine Empire was able to survive the collapse of the western half of the Roman Empire was because of its location. The Byzantine Empire was centered on a crossroad for trade. So they had a very, very large, prosperous economy. Trade was very important for them. They became a center of manufacturing. They too started to make silk textiles. So their economy kept them going when the western half of the Roman Empire collapsed. So important things to know about the Byzantines. Christianity is the official religion of the empire. And that was because Constantine converted, if you remembered, and then you can compare his conversion to the conversion of Ashoka under the Mauryan dynasty. With Christianity being so important for the empire, the Byzantines developed this concept of Caesaropapism. That one's important too. Caesaropapism literally means Caesar over Pope, and it was this concept that the emperor was a secular lord who's going to have a very active role in ecclesiastical affairs, so he's very, very involved in the church. One thing to know is that their government is very, very highly centralized. They have a bureaucracy, and I totally forgot to add stuff, so I will go write this in here. The way their bureaucracy was set up, and this is going to be on another slide, but I'm going to talk about it here. This is really hard to write with a mouse. They have what's called the theme system. So if I'm writing this out, this is probably something important that you need to know. All right, so the way the theme system worked, a military general was given authority over a province. So they divided their empire up into provinces, and he was responsible for the military, defense, and civil administration of a province, and he reported directly back to the empire. Say hi.
What's up, yo?
Mr. Rod came in while I'm recording my podcast. So that's how their bureaucracy was set up, and their emperor was seen as an absolute ruler. And the way the Byzantines viewed him was he embodied Christ's power on earth. Okay, so important people you need to know for the Byzantine Empire. Let me go back to my highlighter. Okay, important people you need to know. Justinian, and I will talk about him on the next slide. And then his wife, Theodora, who is probably like the most powerful woman in Byzantine history. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Justinian. He came to power in 527. Did a lot of really good things that you need to know. He built the Hagia Sophia, which was a church, this church right here. And then when the Ottomans took it over, they converted it into a mosque. He is also known for codifying Roman law. So you'll see it, oh, that's bad, as the Code of Justinian, but in Latin, it's the Corpus Iuris Civilis. Okay, so the body of civil law. And it was basically the law code that became the foundation for all legal knowledge in Europe. It's like the last major document ever written in Latin. So is it important? He is going to go reclaim a lot of the Western Roman Empire. Unfortunately, despite all his good stuff, like he builds roads and bridges and all kinds of stuff, he is going to contract the plague and go crazy. And then because of all his building projects, he is going to bankrupt the empire by the time he died. So not that great for him. Okay, so here's the theme system where I forgot to move it. So we already talked about that, but important. If you don't remember what it was, go back and rewatch the 2 slides ago. Some of the conflicts that the Byzantines had to deal with, they had to deal with the Germanic tribes constantly coming in, which is why down here is Constantinople. They ended up building walls around the city. You have these Seljuk Turks that are going to come in, and in 1071 are going to engage the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert. And basically, this is the Turks coming in and taking Anatolia. So that's going to kind of start to weaken the Byzantines and lead to their decline. As far as religious problems, the 2 big things that you need to know for the religious conflicts. One is this whole crisis of iconoclasm. And that was the movement to stop the use of images of Jesus and saints in Byzantine art, because there were a lot of people who would venerate the images and icons, and they wanted to move away from that. And you see this in other religions also, this move of getting away of worshiping or praying to a picture of a god or a statue of somebody, which is partly why you have the ban on pictures of Muhammad in Islam. Probably the biggest religious conflict to come out of the Byzantine Empire is going to be the Great Schism, which happens in 1054. And this is the split in Christianity. And so you will have the Western religion of Christianity, which is Roman Catholic or Catholicism, which is going to be stationed in Rome, and their head of church is going to be the Pope or the papacy. Okay, same thing. And then you have the Eastern half, which becomes Eastern Orthodox, and they are centered in Constantinople, and their head is going to be the Patriarch. So like I said, the Byzantine Empire is going to fall in 1453 when the Ottomans come and conquer them. This is like one of the super most important dates that you need to know. So please memorize it. So we're going to stop here with the Byzantines, and then I will go into medieval Europe and the Crusades and the plague and all kinds of stuff.